Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. My name is Jen Murray. The pronouns I use are they, them, theirs, and she, her, hers, and I am pleased to serve as your worship associate. Today's service will explore this month's theme of flourishing together. I now have the distinct honor and pleasure to introduce our pulpit guest, Reverend Jim Foti. Rev Jim Foti is a freelance UU minister based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A Milwaukee native, he served as assistant sabbatical minister here at First Church in 2023. His current areas of focus include congregational consulting, activism, short-term ministries, and writing fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. Jim is a 2013 graduate of Meadville Lombard Theological School and serves on its board of trustees. Without further ado, I welcome and bring to you Rev Jim.
Thank you for that warm welcome. It is really great to be back here, and I'll be back here again in 3 weeks. So, our opening words this morning are from the Reverend Hannah Roberts Villeneuve, who is co-minister at our UU congregation in Appleton. People sometimes ask, is pride a protest or a party? And the answer, of course, is yes. And why not? Why not rejoice as we resist, dance as we demand change, celebrate as we create community that delights in all of who we are? So bring all of that with you this morning. Bring your policy demands, bring your glitter, bring your Supreme Court broken heart. Bring your rainbow socks, bring the emptiness you feel for our siblings gone too soon. Bring your Gloria Estefan remix. Bring your tender hope for change, bring your most garish eyeshadow. Bring your spirit, tattered and battered by a world that seems insistent on choosing fear and hate. Gather up all these things and bring them here to a place where we don't have to shoulder these burdens or celebrate these joys alone. Come, let us worship together. And now will you please rise and bow to your spirit for our opening hymn, number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. 126 in the gray hymnal. going to enter a time of spoken meditation, followed by silence, followed by the seated singing of Spirit of Life. Our prayer this morning is Beacons by Kimmy Floyd Reich. And while the words specifically embrace LGBTQ plus people on this Pride Sunday, all of us are invited to see ourselves as worthy and shining. Beloveds, we were never meant to hide in closets, and we were never meant to be spoken of in whispered corners by a world filled with others afraid of their own reflections. We are the flame of Channing's truth, Olympia Brown's relentlessness, Lou Alcott's defiance of societal expectations, and Thoreau's solitude of freedom, freedom of solitude. We are here, heirs of a theology that says love is love. The soul is not gendered, that covenants live in hearts, not courtrooms. Laws can be cruel and narrow, but our faith remains wide, widening still more until every child hears their pronouns in liturgies, and every parent of a trans child hears their entire congregation reflect back, "You are not alone," in the face of their fears. We have always been here, from pulpits to picket lines, from the ancestors you called heretics, to our kitchen tables, where we sat with chosen families, speaking our truths into becoming real. This world may pass bans, overturn laws, rewrite constitutions, threaten us, but our marriages were holy before they were licensed, and our identities were sacred before we had names. Today, again, and every day, bless those coming out and those staying in. Bless the drag. Bless the transitioning. Bless the questioning. Bless the kinfolk. Bless chosen families. And bless us. Because we have faced ourselves, loved ourselves, seen ourselves, and we declare that we are beauty and goodness and unicorns with a bit of rainbow and a lot of heart. We gather now in the wake of their efforts to erase, as a sign that we are not so easy to erase, and knowing that we are literally love becoming. We were never meant to hide. We were always meant to blaze.
Hello again. Today's service, as I mentioned earlier, will explore this month's theme of flourishing together with a little bit of glitter and a lot of pride. So we are a faith community of many identities. We welcome people of all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, abilities, and bodies. We welcome your spirit, your mind, and your heart. We welcome all you are carrying with you today and all your heart longs to set down. To all the guests visiting today, we are glad you are here. If you are visiting in person, we ask that you please fill out a welcome card in the pew rack in front of you and drop it in the offering plate when it is passed around in a few moments. You also can look for someone with a yellow name tag who is from the Welcome and Belonging team and would love to connect with you. To all gathered here, please join us after the service in the Leanhouse Common Room across the hall for fellowship and to learn more about other activities happening in our congregation. We also welcome those joining us via live stream only today. Online visitors, a Connect with Us link will appear in the chat shortly. If you fill out the forms, someone from the congregation will reach out to you. Some accessibility notes. Hearing assist devices and large print hymnals and orders of service are at the back of the sanctuary, along with worship activity bags for children and anyone who wants them. There is a fragrance-free area in the front right pews, and online viewers, you are able to enable YouTube closed captions. Now, for this week's announcements. As you know, Juneteenth is this Friday, June 19th, and the city of Milwaukee hosts one of the nation's largest Juneteenth celebrations. As you walked in, you might have received both a listing of many of the events that's printed in the order of your service, or that are being held around the city in honor of celebrating Juneteenth, as well as an updated Black business guide that the anti-racism team continues to provide. Let us show Milwaukee that First Church is Juneteenth proud. Woo-hoo! The clock is ticking, and the need for action on climate is urgent. Join us on Saturday, June 20th at 9 a.m. at the Washington Park Urban Ecology Center to learn about and celebrate Milwaukee's substantial commitments and action to reduce climate heating emissions. Breakfast will be served, and fun activities follow the speaking program. From the Guest House Coordinating Committee, donations are needed for the meal we are providing to the Guest House on Saturday, June 20th. See the announcement in your order of service for how to sign up online. You can also contact Elizabeth Lentini with any questions. Her contact information is also in your order of service. First Church will be hosting the AUUMM Music Conference, and we will need volunteers as greeters for food and beverages. Please sign up at the link in your Friday e-announcements or contact Choral Director Tristan Stretzler. Now, we have the unison affirmation of our mission. I invite you to share in our First Church purpose by joining me in reciting the unison affirmation of our mission printed in your order of service. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. Our pledges are at the core of our spiritual practice of generosity. In addition, the church shares half of all pledged non-cash in our offering plate with a community organization, practicing our value of interdependence. Today, we share the plate with Preserve the Parks. Preserve the Parks works to protect and advocate for Milwaukee's parks, green spaces, and lakefront so they remain public, accessible, and sustainable for future generations. The offering will now be gratefully received as we sing, seated, the hymn, We Shall Be Known, printed in your order of service. I invite all children and youth and faith formation volunteers to sing the first verse and then follow Fiona Higgins to the Leanhouse Common Room and then downstairs for faith formation. If your child needs to check in, please join them. May the practice of giving bring us joy. I used to joke in my 20s that I was here on planet Earth to put the gay back into stargazing. As it turns out, there may have been more truth in that joke than I realized. For those who know me, well, this probably comes as no surprise. I'm enamored with the stars, and by extension, the symbology inside of astrology. I treasure stories of the cosmos, zodiacal wisdom, and the planetary alignments present at the divine moment we each took our first breath. Together, for me, they create what astrologers call a natal chart or a birth chart, a kind of a celestial guidebook that offers insight into our unique design, sheds light on the gifts we bring into this lifetime, and invites us to consider how our individual brilliance contributes to our collective flourishing. This story with the stars begins during the pandemic. My beloved was classified as an essential worker on the front lines of healthcare. I was suddenly working remotely. Not one job, but what felt like 3. At the same time, I was parenting a kindergartner, navigating Zoom school, which we can discuss the developmental impacts of that another day, and a 3rd grader learning online. The walls felt like they were closing in. And if I'm honest, I was angry and at the edge of burnout. Kind of honored, actually, because one of my former students is here singing with us today, so I feel like, woo! So Ray, thanks for being here. Anyhow, I was at the edge of burnout. Found myself yelling more than I wanted to admit. Then I noticed something. If I said only a few words, one child exploded as if I had lit a bundle of dynamite. The other would become quiet and often disappear into their own private world. One became a volcano, continuously erupting, and the other retreated beneath the surface like a storm, gathering strength far out at sea. My beloved wasn't home to help me process what was happening, and I felt increasingly alone. The elements of our family seemed not only chaotic, but out of balance. Meanwhile, my own mind was racing with a million thoughts and not a single way to organize them. I thought I needed a map, so I did what any aspiring astrologer would do. I pulled our birth charts. I wasn't looking for predictions. I wasn't looking for understanding. As I began studying our charts, I became fascinated by the moon. In astrology, the moon reflects our emotional nature, how we process our feelings, how we seek comfort, how we instinctively respond when life becomes overwhelming. And then I noticed something remarkable. My youngest child has a fire moon. Remember the dynamite? My oldest child has a water moon, far out at sea. I have an air moon, and my beloved has an earth moon. Fire, water, air, earth. Suddenly, our family dynamics made sense. When I came in with too much air, too many words, too many thoughts, too much mental energy, I could either fan my youngest flames or unintentionally create a hurricane in my oldest child's emotional waters. And the one element that grounded all of us, earth, was often missing because my beloved was serving and caregiving for elders in the middle of a global crisis. We weren't broken even if I felt like everything was breaking apart. Rather, we were out of elemental balance. That realization changed everything. It was not about control. Instead, it was about being witnessed, seen, and ultimately invited to flourish inside the elements of being. I began following the moon and learning the rhythms of the sky. I studied planetary cycles. I trained as a breathwork facilitator, which is very on brand for an air sign person looking for answers. More importantly, I learned to pause, to take a conscious, connected breath between stimulus and response, to notice when I was creating natural disasters instead of nurturing connection. Our family didn't become perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we became more compassionate. We began learning how each of us needed to be nourished emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. What astrology taught me wasn't really about the stars. It taught me about interdependence and the interconnected nature of our human relationships. Just as the world needs fire, water, air, and earth, our families and our communities need every kind of person, each expression of pride and celebration. The loud ones and the quiet ones, the dreamers and the builders, the rebels and the caregivers, the queer kids looking up at the night sky wondering where they belong. Flourishing together isn't about becoming more alike. It's about learning how to honor the unique elements each of us contribute to the world. And perhaps that is what the sparkling glitter of our night skies has been trying to teach us all along.
If any of you know this song or learned it from Kermit the Frog, like I did, feel free to sing along or just listen, whatever you want. Why are there so many songs about rainbows and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So
story that points to the broader progress of LGBTQ plus people. And it's a history that we honor during this magical time of year we call Pride. I know I seem far too young to have been alive way back in the 20th century. But it's true, I was, and maybe you were too. I was an undergraduate at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I began the process of coming out in 1987. I had been living with the reality of same-sex attraction since age 14, but I did not start living into it until I was 19. I truly did not tell a soul during those years. That was a long time to live with a big secret, but I was hardly alone in taking such an approach. My silence was not the product of shame. I knew I had done nothing wrong. Rather, I hid a part of myself from the world because I was justifiably worried about how the world would respond. I chose to attend Madison because I suspected it would be a good place to come out, and sure enough, by my senior year, I'd had many sessions of university-sponsored counseling, and I'd collected a reliable group of gay friends. We navigated the coming out process, explored the very new realm of dating, and considered the best ways for each of us to live out our identities in the broader world. Being gay became so much less lonely than it had been during my high school years, and community was the key to figuring out how to flourish. One day, my college friends and I found ourselves in a state of curious surprise. We had somehow heard that the university was going to be offering a class on homosexuality. A class about us? Eyebrows went up all around. We never imagined that such a course would ever be offered, even at our progressive school. But news was getting around as it did in those days, by word of mouth, and it turned out to be true. So several of us decided to register for the class. The official title of the one-credit course was Male Homosexuality in Cross-Disciplinary Perspective. Doesn't that sound fun? The class was offered by an unusual combination of 3 departments: social work, women's studies, and zoology. We were more eyebrows going up and down, because we were not social workers, women, or non-human animals. But it turned out that the instructors were coming from a range of departments all over campus, including Germanic languages and even the health service. A lot of people who could were coming together to make this happen, however they could. One more tidbit. The class met in a campus building that I had never been to, the Primate Research Center. Again, more eyebrows going up and down. But we could not argue that we were not primates. And at least it was a building where I was unlikely to run into anyone I knew. That was important, not running into anyone I knew. I would be graduating soon, and I knew that being gay could hurt my chances of finding or keeping a job. Such discrimination was completely legal, so I was planning to stay under the radar. The organizers of the course were aware of these challenges, and so on my official college transcript, the gay class with the long name appears simply as Topics in Biology. The class was at once a beacon and kind of in the closet. The curriculum explored historical, social, psychological, and biological perspectives. We learned about gay men in medieval times, and about scientific findings supporting our belief that we were not disordered. It was helpful to hear these things in community from educators brave enough to teach such material. At the end of the semester, I received an AB in the class, a grade halfway between an A and a B. Part of me thought that as a gay male, I should automatically get an A in a class about gay males. But the grade turned out to be a perfect metaphor for that period of my life. I never quite felt like I was acing any of it. From coming out to navigating a subculture that wasn't always the perfect fit, being LGBTQ+ was complicated work. But there was plenty of glitter, too. The deep friendships, of course, but also the liberation to embrace our affections and attractions as gifts rather than burdens, and to be able to explore those attractions and affections. To go out dancing well past midnight, to smile at the audacity of drag queens, and to figure out our place in the rainbow. Today is First Church's annual Pride service, and the monthly worship theme is flourishing together. And I've shared this glimpse of my college years to illustrate that as rough as things are today, there's no sugarcoating it. Things are very rough. LGBTQ+ people have seen and earned tremendous progress in just a few generations. Our stories remind us that pride is both a deeply individual acceptance of ourselves and a communal celebration of the power and achievement we have in community. And as valuable as that gay class was all those years ago, we could only learn so much in one credit hour. The world always has more to teach us. And one lesson I was slow to learn was that every type of queer person is a blessing to the movement. Like many gay men of privilege, in my younger days, I found myself quietly wishing that some members of the LGBTQ+ community would calm down and tone it down. I'm not proud of that. Surely their paths through life and mine would be easier if they would just try to fit in a little better. A bit less glitter, a little more buttoned down. Even though I didn't like being told how to be gay by straight society or by other gay men, I wound up harboring some judgments of my own. I eventually learned that instead of bringing judgments, I should have been bringing gratitude towards all those who were more out there than I was. My silence was hurting them at the same time that their visibility was helping me. As a young gay adult, I knew the very basics of the story of the Stonewall Uprising. That in June of 1969, patrons of a bar in Lower Manhattan got fed up with police raids and fought back. The raids were for the simple crime of being LGBTQ+. These protesters were not well-behaved or low-key. They were not trying to pass as straight, and they weren't staying home in isolation. Those kinds of things were not going to bring about the kind of change they were seeking. So instead, they took to the streets and made noise and even threw bricks and broke things. They were mad and fighting back. Drag performers and trans women of color were front and center, and at one point, some of them even formed a dance kick line to bring some party to their protest. The many ways of flourishing within the LGBTQ+ community and within and among those communities are a source of strength, and disruption and anger and noise can be essential ingredients in any kind of meaningful social change. And combining protest with joy can further amplify the power. These lessons have become even clearer over the past year and a half, all around the country, in all different kinds of protests. Songs and lawsuits, glitter and intentional civil disobedience. The toolbox is varied, as you all at this church know, and there's a role for everyone motivated by goodness and justice and love. Before we go on, it's important to acknowledge that this year for Pride, not everyone is feeling the joy. The week before last, the Reverend Lucas Hergert, a gay UU minister serving not too far from here in Illinois, wrote an excellent and honest piece to kick off Pride Month. Like many people, Reverend Hergert is rightfully not in a festive space this year, and he named that many LGBTQ+ folks experience pressure to put on a happy face, to bring the smiles and the one-liners, to perform joy even if we're not feeling it. And because Pride is ultimately all about authenticity, Reverend Hergert encourages us to be authentic about where we're at, both with our individual emotions and with the broader state of LGBTQ+ liberation. Yes, as a whole, we have come a long way since I secretly took that class nearly 40 years ago. Now you can even get a 15-credit certificate in LGBTQ studies at my alma mater. But we also know that there's a lot of dangerous backsliding going on, and we're all carrying that reality and responding to it in our own way. There is room for the full spectrum of feelings this year. And I do want to take a moment to name some of that hard stuff. Not to dwell on it, not to give it too much power, not to somehow say that this is the end of the story of progress, but so that we might bear witness to our unevenly shared reality. It was in this pulpit in 2023 where I first mentioned that the percentage of Americans who identify as trans is nearly identical to the percentage of Germans who identified as Jewish in the 1930s. The far right always needs an enemy, a scapegoat, a distraction. And because they are at heart cowards, they choose to punch down toward minority groups. We have seen this accelerate in real time. Along with immigrants, our trans siblings are being especially targeted. Denied essential medical care, accused of harming society simply by existing, and most recently, even being labeled as terrorists by the federal government. It is all so appalling and absurd and spiritually and physically damaging, and it stands in direct opposition to what Unitarian Universalists and many other traditions believe about loving our fellow human beings. These efforts, this cruelty, it's all intended to be exhausting, and the reality of its toll on our energy and outlook cannot be denied. There's another reason the right portrays LGBTQ+ folks and allies as a threat to society. Because we actually are. We are not a threat to families or children or anyone using a restroom, of course. But we do challenge and have always challenged the idea of narrow gender roles and human possibility. We challenge exclusionary and supremacist religious beliefs. And we challenge a status quo that mostly benefits a tiny slice of powerful people. When you start asking, why do things have to be this way? And who is served by this? The ball can really get rolling, and it gets hard to stop questioning things as they are. That is the real threat. And more kinds of people seem to be realizing what queer folks have always known, that the world is not structured for their flourishing. And when people power starts to build up across a range of differences, it really scares those at the top. I want to step back once more to that long ago classroom where we practically had the shades drawn, to that period when I was first learning about the LGBTQ+ universe. Looking back, there was so much I wish I could have known. I wish I had known the name of Marsha P. Johnson, the trans woman of color who was a hero of the Stonewall Uprising. The whole world was very late in giving her her due. And who could have imagined back then that a musical composition would someday be written to honor her, or that in 2026, high schoolers in Watertown, Wisconsin would stage their own uprising for the right to perform that music. I also wish I could have more quickly known a less segregated, less binary LGBTQ+ world, which back then was basically an LNG world. For decades and generations, it was mostly gay men over here, lesbians over here, each doing our own things, neither group doing a great job of including our bi or trans or non-binary siblings. And these queer camps were further divided by the categories that divide all Americans, like race and class and age. Things certainly are not perfect today, but they're leaps and bounds better than they were. Just take a look around at the diversity visible at Pride Fest, or gaze upon the many colors of the Pride Progress flag, which symbolizes the importance of flourishing together. And look at the countless LGBTQ+ people and allies standing up for trans rights and helping trans folks relocate to safer places. And look at the rising world of queer women, including queer women of color and many queer UUs, who have been doing groundbreaking resistance work against authoritarianism across our country. So many more people understand that we need to bring everyone along. I want to close today with an anecdote from Sam Ames, a trans civil rights activist who's a lifelong Unitarian Universalist. A couple of weeks ago on their Substack, Ames posted a piece about the long relationship between scapegoating and fascism and the existential threats to LGBTQ+ people. It's not an upbeat topic, but it's a real and important one. And in that post, which is leavened with quips and gallows humor, Ames illustrates the importance of finding joy and celebrating whatever can be celebrated. Ames relays the story of spending a long day at the Texas state capitol, fighting the latest in a series of anti-trans laws which keep burbling up like uncontained toxic waste. Ames and other trans activists didn't know what the outcome of the hearing would be, but they still went to a restaurant and honored their good work with beverages and French fries, a sort of communion for their beleaguered but resilient community. And 20 minutes into their time together, they received good news. 20 minutes. An injunction had been issued against the anti-trans law. Ames describes how they reacted. We knew this injunction would be appealed, and we knew it could be lifted as quickly as it had been secured. We knew it could be 20 minutes before a higher court struck it down. So we didn't toast to winning, we toasted to the next 20 minutes. And then, Ames writes, we danced the revolution. We danced between screeching tables, we danced in the rainstorm that descended on the restaurant patio, someone even danced on the bar. We celebrate 20 minutes at a time because we survive 20 minutes at a time. And our survival is the revolution. As it turned out, the injunction that Ames and allies had fought for lasted well beyond 20 minutes. It lasted for 4 years. And it's a reminder that so often we are called to do the right thing without knowing the outcome. We may not always know how beautiful the fruits of our labors will be, but we follow our values no matter what. And no matter how long a victory lasts or takes, the recipe for surviving and thriving is the same. Speak truth against evil. Celebrate what can be celebrated, and never forget that we flourish together. Thank you. Today we are about to offer a glitter blessing, a recognition of the sacred beauty inherent in every person. Online folks, now is a good time to go grab your home glitter. Or who doesn't have a stash? Or grab anything sparkly that makes you feel sparkly. Glitter has long been a symbol for the LGBTQ plus movement of gritty, sparkly hope in the face of prejudice and oppression, of joy and pride in the face of hatred and bigotry.
Glitter is resilient and tenacious. The briefest beam of sunlight makes it shine even in the dreariest spaces, and its beauty comes from its brokenness.
Glitter sparkles because it is many different broken pieces coming together, changing in every moment that the light changes.
The glitter we share today is a reminder that we are beautiful in our sacred authenticity, our ever-changing selves, and our glorious plurality.
As Alyssa blesses us with music, you are invited to come forward, show us where on your face, neck, or arm, or face, neck, arm, or hand we would like to receive your glitter blessing, and then circle back to your seat. If you cannot come forward today and wish to receive this blessing, please raise your hand and one of us will come to you. Online folks, please share in the chat the sparkly thing you are adorning or the ways you are feeling sparkly today. bodies gathered in this sacred space together. We are each a sacred being made of stardust and extra glittery today. May you shine in all your fabulousness today and bless everyone you see with hope and beauty. Time for closing words. Okay. I'm new here. All right. Our closing words are from the Reverend Tandy Rogers. May your thriving never require someone else's diminishment. May joy ripple outward. May your flourishing be communal, mutual, and contagious. May it be a garden, not a prize. And now will you please rise and body your spirit for our recessional hymn, number 118 in the gray hymnal, This Little Light of